I started the year doing a 4-day hike without eating a single calorie, but despite the beautiful landscapes, there was no getting away from the battle with hunger, nausea, dizziness, and fatigue. You may be wondering, why would I do this to myself? To answer that question, we need to go back to December 2021.
Even Red Bull says it's like swimming to the moon.
People be like, get the fuck out of my office.
Yeah.
You can't do that.
Took the previous record holder nearly 8 years to summit these peaks in succession. Nims just took on the 14 mountains in 6 months, 6 days.
Nims Purger. This man filled me with the entire range of human emotions. From admiration to envy, from joy to sadness. What this team of Nepalese climbers achieved was nothing but incredible. That's an irrefutable fact. Once that initial excitement about what I was witnessing wore off, what was left was a somber undertone. Soon questions arise like, what have I done? What have I achieved? This quickly spiraled into an inner dialogue about my capabilities, or in this case, a lack of. And I know I'm not the only person on the planet who has this reaction. One of my friends actually booked a trip to Everest Base Camp because of this exact feeling. Pain is, of course, an excellent motivator, but the discomfort I was feeling wasn't just a result of the serotonin system and my low position in the dominance hierarchy. I was feeling these negative emotions because I too have the same desires. I ache for adventure. I long for exploring the unknown. I have a desire to find out exactly what I'm made out of, what I'm capable of. Do you? I think we all do. I think it's part of the human condition. But how many of us actually act on these desires? Probably not many, right? I think that's a fair assumption. I think a key reason for this is in order to undertake a challenge, you have to take a risk. You have to be prepared to endure discomfort. Otherwise, you give up, proving to yourself that you're not disciplined or not driven enough, so why bother? I had my own doubts about this challenge. What if I get hungry? What if my glucose levels get too low and I pass out, hit my head and die? How much of my gains am I going to lose? What if I have no reception and I have no energy left to keep going? I mulled over these questions for a little bit, but the call for adventure was too much. You see, in recent years hiking has gotten too easy for me, and I really wanted to test myself. Day 1 didn't get off to the great start. It was only 17 hours into the fast and I was feeling lightheaded, dizzy, and my stomach was already growling at me. Despite this, I made it to the camping spot for the first night, and it was very strange not cooking dinner for the first time on a hike. Instead, I sat on the edge of a rock and enjoyed the view until sunset. Day 2 began pretty positively. The hunger of the night before had subsided, and I felt as good as I normally would. I think the scenery had a lot to do with it. The sheer beauty of this place helped me forget that I hadn't eaten. There's something about being outside, breathing fresh air, feeling the sunlight on your face, soaking waterfalls and bathing in forests that seemed to wash your worries away. As I continued walking the camp for the night with spirits high and only a couple unpleasant moments, it became clear that the worst was behind me. What happened next? Well, made it pretty clear I was wrong. I woke feeling, let's say, not the best. I was sore, hungry, and all my enthusiasm left my body, but I was still far from giving in, so without any hesitation, day 3 began. As I found myself getting into a pretty good rhythm, I asked myself the key question I wanted to answer. How will my discipline falter when I completely run out of energy? Let's take a moment to define discipline. To many people, discipline is about doing what needs to be done, even if you don't want to. I think this definition is true, by the way, but a definition like this runs into a problem. Listen to this conversation with David Goggins on the Modern Wisdom podcast.
So every morning starts with a run. And that's because that's the one thing I hate to do more than anything in the world.
Or Jocko's approach to discipline.
Holding the line. Maintaining the standard. Giving no slack, none. That's the discipline.
A definition like this implies using force to overcome an obstacle. Is it just me, or is discipline starting to sound like another term? A term that goes by the name of willpower. Roy Baumeister and John Tierney tell the story of the marshmallow experiment.
I'm going to give you a treat, and the treat is a delicious marshmallow. But if you wait, I have to go check my car. When I come back, if you wait, you can have 2 of them. You can have 1 now, or when I come back, you can have 2. Okay? Okay.
Today, this has been popularized by the concept of instant gratification and the problems associated with it. One look at the personal development space would tell you that this is one of the most common problems people face. The ability to sacrifice the present for a more abundant future. So the question becomes, if I'm unable to delay instant gratification, am I undisciplined? Authors like Mark Manson describe willpower as a finite resource that consumes energy. Power is literally in the name. Mathematically, applying a force to overcome an obstacle takes work, and power is the rate at which work is done. So the way discipline has been conceptualized in media has become synonymous with willpower. Now, if discipline requires a continual consumption of energy, it's only a matter of time for that supply to empty. Then what? Are we setting ourselves up to fail right from the start? Since discipline is so highly regarded in our culture, it is a massive fall when we inevitably fail. Perhaps that fall is so large that you become so discouraged you give up entirely. The day continued feeling very much different compared to yesterday. Today felt quiet, like the calmness before a storm. My hunger was rising, energy levels were dipping, the intermittent nausea I was feeling grew to its maximum, and I needed to find any way to distract myself from how I was feeling. But as the afternoon grew to a close, I didn't have much left for anything. This was the moment I was waiting for, the moment that would test my discipline.
This was the first time where I had doubted my ability because everyone had given up.
Can you remember the last time you had a moment like this? What did you do? How did you respond? The most common response is to default back to your old habits once things get tough. Like eating KFC when you should be in a calorie deficit. Like watching TikTok videos when you should be working on an assignment. Like playing video games when you should be in the gym. In these difficult moments when we are tested, we have the tendency to escape, to take the path of least resistance. But what if I told you there's a secret to discipline? A hidden method that'll get you through these moments nearly every time. Our current model for discipline is not only wrong but also counterproductive. We simply cannot rely on willpower to get us through those hard moments because it's in those hard moments that we have nothing left to give. So you need something else to turn to. You have to remember exactly what it is you're trying to pursue. You remind yourself why this goal is important to you. You want to align yourself so closely to that goal that it becomes indistinguishable from you. Then it's like you don't have any other choice but to keep going. The best goals are the ones aiming at the highest amount of good you can conceive. You're on the side of a mountain, constantly moving towards something that is above you. It's tough and it's tiring, but you don't have a choice, because this climb is not about you.
I had two purposes. The first one was, doesn't matter where you come from, what your background is, you can literally show the world nothing is impossible. And the second one was, the Nepalese climbing community, the Sherpas, are the king of 1,000ers, but we never had the right credits. And I wanted to raise the name of the Nepalese climbers.
It's this underlying meaning that provides the bedrock of any disciplined person. It's that deep sense of fulfillment that makes the suffering worthwhile. So the secret to discipline is a rather simple one. You need to identify what you're willing to suffer for. Then you follow that as consistently as you can. Because that's what discipline actually is. Consistency. Discipline is not about perfection. Discipline is not about beating yourself up or feeling sorry for yourself when you fail. Discipline is about that constant pursuit of something greater than yourself. Once that is established, discipline becomes easy. You just don't have a choice. With consistency comes a habit, habits are who you are, and so discipline becomes a part of who you are. That's why I was mostly sure I would not fail this challenge. It was aligned to one of my greater goals. And since I'm mostly consistent in the things I do, eating was not an option, unless it became a necessity. So when you inevitably compare yourself to someone like Nims, remind yourself that they have found something that they're willing to suffer for. And if you struggle with discipline, maybe that's because you haven't found what that is yet. So with the hike over and the fast successfully achieved, there was only one thing left to do. So that's the secret to discipline, an unrelenting pursuit of something greater yourself and consistency over the long term. So you may be wondering, how do I find what I'm willing to suffer for? and the best way is to have plenty of first-hand experiences, but that is not always regularly possible. The next best thing is to relive the experiences of others in a distilled form, and there is no better format than that than reading books. But if you're like me and you struggle to make reading a habit, then it might be because of a reason that school never told you.